The night on the alien planet was endless. The sky was covered with thick clouds, blocking out the stars. A cold wind howled through the wasteland, carrying the scent of dust and decay. Captain Ryan Walker moved carefully across the rocky terrain. His boots crunched against the dry ground, the only sound in the silence. His ship had crashed 3 days ago. No signal, no rescue. He had limited food and even less water. If he didn't find a solution soon, he would die here. His flashlight flickered, the battery almost dead. Ryan cursed under his breath. He had to find shelter before the temperature dropped any further. The nights were cold, deadly cold. Then he heard it. A whisper, faint, carried by the wind. Ryan froze. He wasn't alone. He scanned the area, his hand reaching for the blaster at his hip. The planet was supposed to be deserted. No intelligent life, no settlements. Just ruins of an ancient civilization long gone. And yet, someone had spoken. Help. Me. The voice was weak, fragile, as if the speaker was barely alive. Ryan hesitated. It could be a trap. It could be a hallucination. But his instincts told him otherwise. He followed the sound, stepping carefully over broken stones and shattered ruins. The whisper grew louder. Finally, he saw her. She was sitting against a crumbling stone pillar, barely able to move. She was not human. Her skin was a soft, pale blue, glowing faintly under the dim light. Her long silver hair was tangled and covered in dust. Her red eyes, once bright, were now dull and unfocused. Her black cloak was torn, revealing deep scratches on her arms. She looked weak. She looked like she was dying. Ryan tightened his grip on his weapon. Who was she? Was she dangerous? Then he saw her lips move. Please, help me. Ryan took a step closer. Who are you? She tried to speak but coughed violently. Her body trembled as if she had no strength left. Ryan reached into his bag, pulling out his last bottle of water. He knelt beside her and lifted it toward her lips. Drink this. She turned away. His eyebrows furrowed. What's wrong? Her breath was shallow, her voice barely above a whisper. Not water. Ryan stared at her. If she wasn't dying from thirst, then what? And then he saw them. The fangs. Peeking from beneath her lips, sharp and deadly. A chill ran down his spine. This was no ordinary alien. She was a vampire. His first instinct was to move back, to pull his weapon. But something held him in place. She was not attacking. She was not hunting. She was begging. Ryan's heartbeat pounded in his chest. What do you need? He asked, though he already knew the answer. She opened her mouth, trembling, struggling to say the words. Blood. Ryan felt his fingers tighten around the handle of his blaster. He should leave. He should run. But she was looking at him with desperate eyes, not as a predator, but as a dying creature clinging to life. She had no strength to fight, no power to take what she needed. She was starving. Ryan took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had seen many things in space, wars, monsters, things no human should ever witness. But this was something different. The logical choice was to leave, to walk away, to save himself. But then he imagined what it would feel like, to be alone, dying, begging for help, and finding no one willing to save you. Ryan sighed and pulled out his knife. The girl's eyes widened as she saw the blade. Slowly, he pressed it against his palm. A small cut, just enough. A drop of blood formed, sliding down his skin. The girl gasped. She reached for his hand, but stopped herself. Her fingers trembled just inches away, her entire body shaking with the effort to hold back. Ryan saw it in her eyes. Fear, not of him, but of herself. She was afraid of what she might do. Ryan exhaled. He made the choice. He pressed his bleeding hand against her lips. The moment the blood touched her skin, her body stiffened. Then she drank. It was not like the stories. There was no pain, no sudden attack, no overwhelming force. It was gentle, careful, almost delicate. Ryan's vision blurred slightly, but he remained awake. His heartbeat slowed, but he felt no fear. The girl pulled away after only a few moments. She was breathing harder now, but her body was no longer trembling. A soft glow returned to her red eyes. She wiped her lips, looking ashamed. I only took a little," she whispered. "Just enough." Ryan swallowed. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. For the first time, she smiled. "Thank you." Ryan was about to respond when suddenly a deep growl echoed through the ruins. The girl's face turned pale. "No," she whispered. Ryan turned, hand on his blaster. Something was coming. Something hungry. The growl was deep, guttural, like something ancient waking up. Ryan turned his head slowly. The ruins around them were silent, but the air felt wrong. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. The girl beside him, this strange, fragile vampire, was trembling. Not from hunger, not from weakness, from fear. Ryan tightened his grip on his blaster. "What is it?" Her glowing red eyes flickered toward the darkness. "They found me." Another growl. Closer this time. Ryan's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He scanned the area, looking for movement, for shadows shifting where they shouldn't. But the ruins were still. "Who found you?" he asked, his voice low. The girl swallowed hard. "My kind." Ryan's blood ran cold. Vampires. But she was weak. She was starving just moments ago. And now she was afraid of her own kind. That meant only one thing. "They're not like you, are they?" Ryan muttered. She shook her head. "They don't ask." A shape moved behind a crumbling pillar. Too fast, too low to the ground. Ryan raised his blaster. "How many?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Too many." Another growl. This time, a pair of glowing red eyes flickered in the darkness. Then another, and another. Ryan counted at least 5, maybe more. His muscles tensed. If they rushed him all at once, he wouldn't survive. He turned back to the girl. "Can you fight?" She clenched her fists, her sharp nails digging into her skin. "Not enough." Ryan exhaled sharply. "Figures." Then, from the darkness, a voice slithered through the air. "We smell blood." The words sent a chill down Ryan's spine. The voice was raspy, broken, like someone choking on their own hunger. The girl beside him flinched. "They know you're human now," she whispered. Ryan nodded, jaw tightening. He wasn't about to let himself be dinner. One of the figures stepped forward, half hidden in shadow. Ryan could see it clearly now. Tall, twisted, too thin, its skin stretched tight over its bones. Its eyes burned red, but unlike the girl's, they had no warmth, just hunger. Its mouth curled into a jagged grin. "Fresh prey," it hissed. Ryan didn't wait. He pulled the trigger. The blaster shot struck the creature dead in the chest. A perfect shot. But it didn't die. It barely flinched. The creature looked down at the smoking hole in its chest, then let out a rattling laugh. "That won't work, human." Ryan cursed under his breath. Of course it wouldn't. The girl grabbed his wrist. "We have to run." Ryan's instincts screamed at him to fight, to stand his ground. But this wasn't a battle he could win. Not yet. Another growl, this time from behind. They were surrounding him. "Move," the girl hissed, pulling him. Ryan didn't argue. He turned and ran. The ruins blurred past as Ryan sprinted through the darkness, the girl just behind him. The growls echoed all around them. The creatures weren't running. They were stalking, waiting. Ryan gritted his teeth. Why aren't they attacking? "They like to play first," she gasped. Ryan's stomach twisted. He didn't have time for games. A sharp claw slashed through the air, just inches from his back. They were getting closer. Up ahead, the ruins opened into a massive crater, the remains of some ancient battle. Sharp stone formations jutted out like teeth. A dead end. Ryan stopped, chest rising and falling, his mind racing for an escape. The girl looked around desperately. There's nowhere left to go. Ryan checked his blaster. One shot left. Not enough. He turned back. The creatures were here. They emerged from the darkness, slow, deliberate. Their red eyes glowed like dying embers. They moved like shadows, slinking forward, long claws scraping against the stone. The leader, taller than the rest, its skin ashen and cracked, stepped closer. "Give us the girl," it rasped. Ryan blinked. "What?" It tilted its head, grinning. "She is ours." Ryan glanced at her. She was shaking, her fangs bared, but she wasn't fighting back. They weren't here for him. They were here for her. "Not happening," Ryan said flatly. The creature's grin widened. "Then you will die screaming." Ryan exhaled, heart hammering. He had one shot, one chance. The girl touched his arm. "There's another way." Her voice was soft, afraid. Ryan looked at her. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then whispered, "More blood." Ryan's breath caught. She shook her head quickly. "Not enough to kill. Just enough to make you faster, stronger, like them." Ryan stared at her. She was offering to change him, to make him something more, to make him like her. The creatures were getting closer. There was no time. Ryan made his decision. He pulled out his knife. He pressed the blade against his skin, and he cut. The girl's eyes went wide. A single drop of human blood hit the ground. The creatures lunged. The girl grabbed Ryan's wrist. Her lips brushed his skin. Then she drank. Everything exploded. Heat. Fire. A rush of power unlike anything Ryan had ever felt. His body tensed. His vision sharpened. The world slowed down. The creatures' movements became sluggish, like they were underwater. Ryan could see every detail, their twisted claws, their open mouths, their shock, because they felt it too. Ryan clenched his fists. His body wasn't the same anymore. The girl pulled away, her red eyes glowing brighter than before. "Now," she whispered. Ryan smirked. "Let's see how they like being hunted." For a moment, time froze. Ryan's blood was still dripping from his wrist. The alien girl's lips trembled as she pulled away, her breath unsteady. Her red eyes, once dull with weakness, were now alive, bright, powerful. And Ryan, his body burned. It wasn't pain, it was something else, a sensation unlike anything he had ever known. His heartbeat was slow, but each pulse sent a shockwave through his body. His muscles coiled like a loaded spring. His senses expanded. He could hear the creatures breathing, smell the dampness of the ruins, even feel the air shift as the monsters moved. The vampires hesitated. They had been so sure, so ready to kill. But now, something had changed. Ryan lifted his gaze, locking eyes with the leader of the pack. The once confident creature took a half step back. It felt the difference too. And for the first time, Ryan smirked. "Let's see how you like being the prey." The vampire leader snarled. "Kill them." The pack lunged. Ryan moved. And the world blurred. Ryan was fast, too fast. The moment the first vampire leaped at him, his body reacted, before he could even think. He ducked, twisted, and grabbed the creature midair, slamming it into the ground so hard the stone cracked beneath it. The monster screeched. Ryan didn't give it a chance to recover. He moved again, a blur of motion, faster than he had ever imagined possible. His instincts were different now, more precise, more deadly. Another creature rushed him, claws aimed for his throat. But Ryan saw it coming. His body responded effortlessly. He spun to the side, grabbed its arm, and in a flash, twisted. Snap! The vampire's limb bent at an unnatural angle, and it let out a horrific shriek before Ryan kicked it away like a broken doll. The rest of the pack hesitated now. They had thought they were hunters. But in an instant, the balance had shifted. Ryan looked down at his hands. He felt stronger, faster, sharper, yet he was still himself. He was still human, right? He turned to the girl. She was staring at him, wide-eyed. "What? What did I just do?" Ryan asked. She shook her head. "I don't know. You shouldn't be this strong." Her voice was filled with something new. Not just shock, awe, and maybe fear. The vampire leader hissed, its fangs bared. "He's unnatural." It spat. "Humans should be weak." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "And yet, here I am." The leader lunged, faster than any of the others. But this time, Ryan didn't dodge. He grabbed the creature midair, his bare hands against a monster's throat. The leader's eyes widened in shock as Ryan tightened his grip. "You were so eager for my blood," Ryan said coldly. "So tell me, how does it feel?" The leader screamed. Its claws slashed at Ryan's arms, but they barely scratched him. Then Ryan did something he never thought he could. He lifted the monster off the ground. The other vampires stepped back, their confidence crumbling. The leader struggled, trying to pry Ryan's fingers from its throat. But it was too late. With one powerful motion, Ryan threw the creature across the ruins. It slammed into a jagged stone pillar, bones snapping as it crumpled to the ground. Silence. The remaining vampires froze. For the first time, in their eyes, Ryan saw fear. They weren't looking at a human anymore. They were looking at a predator. The leader coughed, struggling to rise. "He's not normal," it rasped. "We can't fight this." Ryan stepped forward, his footsteps echoing in the silent ruins. The girl beside him spoke, her voice steady now. "Then run." The vampires did. They scattered like rats, vanishing into the darkness. Ryan exhaled. The fire in his veins began to cool, but his body still thrummed with power. He looked down at his hands again. He had changed. But into what? The girl stepped closer, examining him. "You're different now." Ryan let out a breath. "Yeah, no kidding." She hesitated. "Your blood, it shouldn't have made you this strong." Ryan met her gaze. "Then why did it?" She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. And that terrified her. Ryan sighed and holstered his blaster. "All right, that was fun. But now we need to figure out how to get off this rock." The girl tilted her head. "You still want to leave?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Why wouldn't I?" She hesitated. Then softly, she said, "Because now, they will never stop hunting you." Ryan exhaled, rubbing his temples. "Great, just what I needed." Then he smirked. "Well, at least now I can fight back." She gave him a long look. Then, for the first time, she smiled. "Maybe you're not human anymore," she said. "Maybe you're something more." Ryan chuckled. "Let's hope that's a good thing." The silence stretched across the ruins like a thin layer of ice, fragile, waiting to shatter. Ryan stood motionless, staring at his own hands. His fingers flexed, his grip tightening unconsciously. The power in his veins was still there, humming beneath his skin like a storm waiting to explode. The alien girl, pale, fragile-looking, yet full of secrets, watched him closely. "You're not just human anymore," she whispered. Ryan exhaled. "Yeah, I got that part." He glanced toward the shadows where the vampires had fled. "But why are they so scared of me?" She hesitated. "Because they don't understand what you are now." Ryan frowned. "And you do." She shook her head. "No. And that terrifies me even more." The wind howled through the ruins, sweeping dust into the air. Ryan took a step forward, his boots crunching against the stone. He felt different, stronger, lighter, more aware. His senses were sharpened to a degree that no normal human should experience. He could hear the faint rustling of creatures hiding in the distance, the steady heartbeat of the girl beside him, the shifting tectonic plates beneath the planet's surface. It was unnatural, and it meant trouble. "You need to leave this planet," the girl said suddenly. Ryan turned to her. "Oh, so now you care about my survival." She didn't smile. "You don't understand what just happened to you. But they will come back, and when they do, they won't run. They'll bring all of them." Ryan crossed his arms. "And who exactly are they?" She hesitated. Then she whispered, "The Elders." Ryan's instincts sharpened at the name. There was weight in that word. Something ancient. Something powerful. "Okay," he said. "Give me the short version. Who are these Elders, and why should I care?" The girl's red eyes flickered with unease. "They are the first, the oldest of my kind. They don't hunt for hunger. They hunt to eliminate threats." Ryan smirked. "Then why didn't they come themselves?" "Because you were just a human before," she said. "Now, you're something else. And that will make them curious." Ryan's smirk faded. Curious. That was never a good thing when it came to creatures that saw humans as food. He ran a hand through his hair. "All right. So let me guess. We sit here, and eventually your vampire royalty comes knocking." The girl tensed. "They won't knock. They'll burn everything to the ground until they find you." Ryan sighed. "Of course they will." A distant boom echoed in the sky. Ryan's head snapped up. The clouds above the ruined city churned unnaturally, rippling like liquid metal. Energy crackled through the air. The temperature dropped instantly. Not natural, not weather. Something was coming. The girl cursed under her breath. "They're here." Ryan exhaled, rolling his shoulders. "Guess that means we skipped the waiting part." She grabbed his wrist. "No, you don't understand. This isn't a fight you can win." Ryan's eyes glowed red for a brief second. The girl froze. A deep growl echoed through Ryan's chest, something primal stirring inside him. His instincts whispered a new reality. He wasn't prey anymore. The sky split apart. A dark tear in reality itself opened above them. From within the abyss, shapes emerged, tall, elegant, monstrous. Cloaked figures, their faces hidden behind ornate masks, floated downward like wraiths. Their very presence sent waves of pressure crashing through the ruins. Ryan clenched his jaw as his knees nearly buckled. The girl gasped, stepping back, whispering, "Impossible." Ryan steadied himself. "Yeah, I have a feeling this is very possible." One of the figures finally spoke. "You are not human anymore." Ryan tilted his head. "Still got 10 fingers, 2 eyes, and a bad attitude. Feels pretty human to me." The elder's voice was cold. "We are not here to kill you." Ryan frowned. "That's surprisingly nice of you." The elder lifted a bony hand. "We are here to understand you." And then the air grew heavy, suffocating. "We will decide whether you are allowed to exist." Ryan's fingers curled into fists. "Yeah, see, that's the problem. I don't need your permission." The elder chuckled, a hollow, lifeless sound. "You misunderstand." The masked figure tilted its head. "You were given a gift, a mutation, but you are incomplete. You are unfinished. You are flawed." Ryan's stomach twisted. Something about that word, flawed, sent a sharp pulse through his body, a feeling like his own DNA was rebelling against itself. The elder took a step forward. "Come with us. Submit, and you will be perfected." Ryan exhaled sharply. "And if I say no?" The elder smiled behind the mask. The sky split apart. Energy crackled through the ruins as the elders moved, their cloaked figures gliding toward Ryan with an unnatural grace. The air around them hummed, vibrating like the universe itself was bending to their will. Ryan clenched his fists, the burning power in his veins raging like an untamed fire. His heart pounded, slower than before, heavier, like it was adjusting to something new. The alien girl, still beside him, gripped his arm. "Ryan, listen to me. We can't fight them. Ryan smirked. Then why are they hesitating? She followed his gaze and saw it. The elders, the same beings who had destroyed civilizations, who had ruled the stars for centuries, were stalling. They weren't attacking immediately. They were watching, calculating. Because for the first time in thousands of years, they didn't know what they were dealing with. The tallest elder finally moved. A hand, long, pale, skeletal, rose from beneath its cloak, pointing directly at Ryan. Your mutation is unstable, it said in a cold, detached voice. Your body is fighting itself. You were not made for this power. Ryan rolled his shoulders, the weight of his new instincts settling in. Yeah, well, I wasn't made to be stranded on an alien planet either, he shot back. And yet here we are. The elder ignored his words. You have two choices. Ryan tilted his head. Let me guess. Come with us and be turned into a mindless pet, or die where I stand. The elder's hollow laugh echoed. You assume you still have a choice. And then it attacked. A pulse of pure darkness shot toward Ryan like a tidal wave. Ryan moved, not with his body, but with something deeper. His instincts flared. His muscles reacted before he could think. 1 second, he was standing in the path of destruction. The next, he was somewhere else. The air rippled where he had been standing. The stone behind him wasn't just destroyed. It was gone. A hole in reality itself. The girl gasped. Ryan, you just moved faster than light. Ryan flexed his hands. His own body felt different. Lighter. Stronger. More connected to whatever had happened to him. But there was no time to understand it. The elder's head snapped toward him. You are evolving too quickly, it muttered, its voice less confident now. Your mind will not survive the transition. Ryan smirked. Guess we'll find out. He clenched his fist and charged. The elders were ancient, masters of reality itself. No species had ever dared to challenge them. But Ryan Walker, he wasn't like anything they had ever encountered. The first elder raised its hand again, summoning a storm of black energy, designed to consume all life in its path. Ryan didn't dodge this time. He punched through it. The shockwave exploded outward, tearing apart the ground beneath him. The elders hissed in unison, their voices a chorus of disbelief. Ryan's eyes burned red. His blood pulsed with a rhythm that wasn't human anymore. He lunged at the nearest elder, and for the first time in their existence, one of them screamed. Ryan's fist connected, and the elder collapsed, writhing in agony. The others froze. No being had ever landed a blow on them. Ryan stood over the fallen creature, exhaling. So much for your gods. The second elder moved, shifting without motion, appearing beside him. Its clawed fingers reached for his skull. Ryan's instincts flared again. He spun, grabbing the creature's wrist and twisting. Cracky! The elder shrieked. Ryan shoved it backward with inhuman force, sending it crashing into the ruins. The girl, who had stood silent, watching a human fight legends, finally spoke. Ryan, stop. He turned to her, confused. What? She stepped forward, her face pale. You don't understand. You're winning. Ryan frowned. And that's bad because... She swallowed hard. Because the elders have never lost before. The realization hit him like a freight train. They weren't just shocked. They were desperate. And desperate monsters did dangerous things. The remaining two elders exchanged something silent between them. Then, for the first time, they stopped looking at Ryan. And looked at her. The girl's breath caught in her throat. No. Ryan took a step forward. Hey, stay away from her. The tallest elder's voice was a whisper, full of dark amusement. You are unstable. But she is the key. Ryan felt it before he understood it. A shift in the air, a change in gravity. And then, they took her. A black void swallowed her whole, the space around her collapsing into nothingness. Ryan lunged, but his fingers closed around empty air. 1 second she was there. The next, she wasn't. Ryan stood frozen, his breath ragged. His veins boiled, his vision darkened with rage. His new instincts screamed for blood, for vengeance. The elders floated above him, their forms flickering like shadows. "You wish to know what you are," one of them whispered. Ryan's fists clenched so tight his knuckles cracked. "Come find us." And with that, they vanished. Ryan was alone. His body burned, his heart raced, and his rage had never felt so clear. They took her, and now he was going to take everything from them. Ryan stood still for a long time, staring at the empty space where she had been. Then slowly, he lifted his head. His eyes weren't red anymore. They were something else, something deeper, something the elders had never prepared for. A slow grin spread across his face. "All right," he whispered to the sky. "You want me to chase you." His muscles tensed. The fire inside him ignited. "Then run." And then he vanished. The void where she had been was still there, flickering like a wound in reality itself. Ryan stood at its edge, his fists clenched so tight that his bones ached. His breath came slow, controlled, but beneath that control, there was something new, something feral. They took her. The elders, the so-called gods of the void, had made their mistake. They left him alive. And now, they were prey. Ryan exhaled, feeling the fire in his blood burn hotter. They wanted him to chase them. Fine. He would show them what true fear felt like. With a single step forward, he vanished. Darkness, infinite and suffocating. Ryan fell through the void, his body weightless, the fabric of space itself twisting around him. The elders had left a trail, not visible, not something anyone could see, but Ryan felt it. His new instincts, the ones that shouldn't exist, sensed the ripples in the universe, the vibrations of their movement, the echoes of their power. They thought they were untouchable. But Ryan, he was something they hadn't planned for. The void around him suddenly ended. He slammed into solid ground, his boots crunching against blackened stone. A new world stretched before him, dark towers of obsidian piercing the sky, rivers of silver mist flowing through the air. A city not made for mortals, a city made for monsters. Ryan rolled his shoulders, his unnatural strength pulsing through his muscles. Then he sensed them. The elders were here, and they were waiting. Ryan walked through the ancient streets, the silence heavy around him. They were watching him. He could feel their presence, lurking in the shadows, their eyes like dying embers. Then a voice cut through the void. "You came." Ryan stopped. From the darkness, 3 figures emerged, the elders who had taken her. Ryan's jaw tightened. "You took something that belonged to me." The tallest elder smiled behind its mask. "She is not yours." Ryan's hands curled into fists. "She is now." The elder laughed. "And what will you do, human? Kill us?" Ryan grinned. "Yeah, that's the plan." The elders moved, and the world erupted. Ryan dodged as the first wave of pure darkness tore through the ground where he had been standing. The stone shattered. The second elder struck from behind, its claws slicing through the air. Ryan turned too fast for a human, his instincts guiding him before his mind could react. His hand shot out, grabbing the elder's wrist. For the first time in their existence, an elder gasped in shock. Ryan ripped its arm off. The creature screamed, its essence unraveling as Ryan's unnatural power consumed it. The other 2 elders hesitated. Ryan smirked. "I thought you guys were gods." The tallest elder hissed, its voice trembling. "You are not human anymore." Ryan tilted his head. "And that's a bad thing for you, isn't it?" The second elder vanished, but Ryan felt its movement, predicting it before it even happened. He twisted, his body already reacting. His fist struck the elder midair, sending it crashing through an entire building. The final elder snarled, raising both hands. The sky itself collapsed, folding inward, twisting into an inescapable prison of pure void. There was no escape, no way out. But Ryan grinned, because he didn't need to escape. He wasn't trapped in here with them. They were trapped in here with him. The air exploded as Ryan's power erupted. His blood, now something beyond human, reacted to the darkness itself. His form shifted, becoming more. His eyes burned brighter. The Elder's attack collapsed in on itself, unable to consume the thing Ryan was becoming. He stepped forward, his voice calm. "You spent centuries hunting the weak." The Elders trembled. Ryan's grin widened. "How does it feel to be on the other side?" The tallest Elder turned to run. Ryan moved faster. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of it. The Elder gasped, staring into Ryan's glowing red eyes. And then Ryan whispered, "Your mistake was thinking I was still human." The Elder screamed, and Ryan tore its mask off. The creature beneath was not a god. It was not immortal. It was just afraid. Ryan's voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "Goodbye." And then, he crushed the Elder's skull in his hands. The last two vanished into the void, retreating like rats. Ryan let them go, because he knew now there was nowhere in the universe where they could hide. And when they least expected it, he would find them. The ruins trembled as the dark city began collapsing. Ryan turned, and then he felt her, a presence so familiar, so real. He moved without thinking, vanishing through the void, and appearing right in front of her. The girl, pale skin, silver hair, glowing red eyes, looked up at him in shock. "Ryan," she whispered. He exhaled. And then, with the same grin he had worn before, he held out his hand. "Let's go home." Her fingers hesitated. Then, she took his hand, and the universe itself bent to his will. They vanished, leaving behind a world that would never forget the day the human had become something more, something terrifying, something the Elders would fear for eternity. The legend of the last human. The void collapsed behind them. Ryan and the girl reappeared on solid ground, back in the ruins where it all began. The night sky stretched endlessly above them, the cold wind whispering through the shattered remnants of a forgotten civilization. For the first time in what felt like eternity, it was quiet. The girl looked up at him, her red eyes filled with something he couldn't quite place. Awe, fear, something else. Ryan sighed, rolling his shoulders. The fire in his veins was still there, but different now. Controlled. A part of him. He turned to her. "You okay?" She hesitated before nodding. "You came for me." Ryan smirked. "Yeah, well, can't let you get kidnapped by ancient vampire gods. Kind of bad for your reputation." Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something. But she didn't. She just watched him. Because he wasn't the same anymore. And they both knew it. The shift in reality. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. "All right. Now that we're not getting erased from existence, mind telling me what exactly I've become?" The girl exhaled. "I don't know." Ryan raised an eyebrow. Not very reassuring. She stepped closer, studying him. "When I took your blood, I only meant to give you strength. But you changed. Faster than anything I've ever seen." Ryan flexed his fingers. His hands still looked human, but beneath the skin, they weren't. His blood wasn't the same. His senses weren't the same. He wasn't human. Not fully. The girl's voice was quiet. "You're the first of your kind." Ryan frowned. "And what exactly is that?" Her gaze met his. "The thing that even monsters fear. The universe knows." The sky rippled. Ryan's body tensed. Instinct. Something was watching. The girl's eyes widened. "They're already listening." Ryan frowned. "Who?" And then, A voice echoed through the cosmos. "We have seen you, human." Ryan stiffened. His veins burned as something vast, something ancient, reached for his mind. It wasn't the elders. It was something older. Something that had been watching long before they had come to this place. The girl grabbed his wrist. "Ryan, don't listen." But the voice wasn't asking. It was telling. "You are not a mistake. You are not an accident. You are the first of the Forsaken. And now, the universe will remember your name." Ryan's chest tightened. "And who the hell are you?" There was silence. Then the voice whispered, "The ones who created your enemy. The elders." Ryan's blood flared. His eyes burned red. "Good," he muttered. "I was just about to look for you. A new path." The girl swallowed hard. "Ryan, what are you going to do?" He exhaled. "You said I was the first of my kind, right?" She nodded. Ryan smirked. "Then I should probably find out what that means." Her eyes flickered with hesitation. "You want to go after them?" Ryan stretched his arms, feeling the strength inside him, the endless potential. "They've been hunting my kind for centuries," he said. "Looks like it's time they finally got hunted back." The girl blinked. Then, slowly, a small smile formed on her lips. "Then I'm going with you." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah." She crossed her arms. "You wouldn't last 2 minutes without me." Ryan chuckled. "Guess I'll have to prove you wrong." She rolled her eyes. But when she looked at him again, there was something different in her expression. Something unchanging. "You don't even realize it, do you?" she said softly. Ryan frowned. "Realize what?" She stepped closer. "The story of humanity was supposed to end. Your kind was never meant to be more than a forgotten species, lost to time." She reached up, brushing her fingers lightly against his chest, over his still beating heart. "But now," her voice was almost a whisper, "now you're the beginning of something new." Ryan tilted his head. "And that scares you?" She smiled faintly. "No, that scares them." Ryan exhaled. He looked up at the sky, at the vast, endless universe waiting beyond, a place that had already decided his fate before he was even born. Well, that was about to change. Ryan cracked his knuckles. "All right then," he said. "Let's go rewrite the rules." The girl grinned. And together, they stepped into the stars. Epilogue. The first of his kind. Unknown location. Unknown time. The last of the elders knelt in the darkness, its body trembling. It had escaped, but for how long? The void whispered around it, unseen figures shifting in the shadows. One of them spoke. "You failed." The elder lowered its head. He was different. A pause. Then the voice responded. "No, he was inevitable." A second voice spoke. "What shall we do?" Silence. Then the first voice whispered. "We prepare, because for the first time in history, a human is coming for us, and we don't know how to stop him." The end. For now.